We are live. Actually, now we're good. Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. How's it going? Interesting. A couple things I want to talk about today. Sorry, I'm like distracted by the chat because y'all are hilarious. So we have a new filing. The defense has responded to the state's motion in Limine about their expert, William Tobin. So we're going to talk about that. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I really tried today. I mean, I try every day, but meanwhile, Sleuthy's keeping me on top of things. She's got to keep me on my toes. So what did I miss? Have I missed anything? I feel like we have a new statement from Kathy Allen, which is exciting because up until now, we haven't had an opportunity to hear from Kathy at all. She's been under a gag order since day one, like October 2022. So it's nice when people can finally be heard and refute harmful misinformation and disinformation, as our friend Fiend the Weircat told us last night, the difference between the two things. First, I want to say hi to my friends. Hi, Tammy. Hi, woman. Hi, Kira. Thank you, Kira, for your message earlier. Hi, Kat. Hi, Judge Jessica. Hey, Judy. She said, hey, Ange, DB, Fiends, All Eyes, and everyone. Miss some of Bob and Allie's live because of a phone call. We'll have to rewatch later. Cool. Hi, DB. Hello, DB. Hey, Rebecca Ann. Heather Brown. Sleuthy. Jojo. Oops. What else we got? Hammer. Hey, everyone. First time in this game. Oh, my God. Hey, Dean. Dean just got done watching The View. It's exciting. That's actually, I don't know if y'all know this, that's Dean's favorite extracurricular pastime when he's home visiting family. He likes to go watch The View be recorded. I love that, Dean. It's nice to see you. Y'all are funny. We have some funny people. Hi, Christy Sharp. I like this, I don't know, this dynamic. I'm here for it. Hey, Chelsea. Imagine if Nick tries to go after Kathy for her statement through her attorney. Wish he would. Wish a motherfucker would. I don't actually wish that. That sounds stressful, but I wouldn't if I were him. DB says, do y'all know any personal injury lawyers that take pro bono cases who have 28 years of experience? No. No, I wish I did. Sleuthy says, yeah. They published it. Right. They published well, I don't know. They were, I think that certain folks have been careful with what they've said. Come on, all you ball fans, and shake your caboose. Hey, Fiend, you're driving back from Delphi. That sounds treacherous. I hope you're covering your six. Hey, Doolin's tip is not inaccurate just because Rick Allen lived on Whiteside Drive. Hi, Christine. Now I'm caught up to when I joined, because here's Sleuthy scolding me for my tardiness. Hello, Cleveland. Hi, Missy's Angels. Hi, Christy Sharp. You honestly could not be. I didn't even know what time it was until DV sent me a message and was like, hey, before you start. And I was like, I love when people publish statements from someone under a category. Oh. Well, yeah, we didn't get to hear her, but we hear her and we see her. Where's Wheat? Did I miss Wheat? Oh, no, that says what? Hey, Laura. Lara, sorry. I'm blind. There's DB again. Hi, Thierry. Hi, Christine DC. Hi, Hot Pocket. Hey, Rose Adams. The smoking. Fiend. There he is. Hey, Skeptic Curiosity. I just got your message. And if it's okay, it's good to see you. When I initially started following the case, I had a couple of conversations with Sarah and realized she was doesn't take long. Hey, Kay. Hey, Stefan. Hey, Jenny. Hi, True Grit. Good to see you. Yeah, I agree with this, Fiend. Tell us beforehand. If anyone is traveling to Delphi for any reason, make sure you tell someone before someone can check on you. The state's timeline and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. So true. I don't know if y'all thought about this, but they should. Well, we'll come back to that thought. Hi, Chastity Young. Hi, welcome. Good to see you. Hi, Curious Luke. Indiana Intelligence Bureau has tapped Fiend's GPS. Look, we know better than to discount that as a possibility. Hi, True Crime Fan. Okay, I'm caught up. Man, what a interesting group of people reporting on this case. Hey, Shay, good to see you. I saw you in another chat the other night, or it might have been last night. I don't remember what one. And if I did, I wouldn't say it probably, but you stood your ground. I loved it. I was trying to have your back, but I'm blocked from pretty much every other channel. So I was shouting into the void, but it's good to see you. And thank you for standing your ground and holding dummies accountable. Let's see. I'm reporting this channel by. I'm not pinning that just because of the name, but that's a funny comment. Right, Kathy's not a media member. Maybe paint an Athala rune on your car to get a cap relief, though. Right. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time. Oh, this shit again. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the motion. I am going to just really quickly read it and love that. But I know All Eyes is doing a live tonight, so I want everyone to watch that. I think she's going to go over the bullet in more detail, which is important. And I know Bob just did a live where he read through it, so don't need to rehash, but I do want to just quickly go through it. I'm not going to go through it, but I'm going to go through it just because it's a really good motion. Yeah, right. Wait, who? What, Sleuthy? This is Sleuthy Goosey, or as I like to call her, Beetle Goose. All eyes on Delphi. Sorry, I said all eyes, which could sound like a lot of things. All Eyes on Delphi, I believe, had posted that she's going to go live later tonight. I'm not sure what time. Okay, I will show it right now. But, so yeah. Okay, bear with me for 1 second, y'all. First and foremost, this is the coolest, most amazing thing I've seen all year. On my timeline, just fortuitously popped up one day. This is a beetle goose. Is that the funniest thing you've ever seen? So now, oh, too late, Sleuthy. You know I'm distractible. But I'm glad we got this out of the way because it's important. Anyway, that's Beetlegoose. That's my loving nickname now for Sleuthy. Anyway, back to the new filing from today. Nope, that's not it. Fuck. Okay. Comes now the defendant. Oh, this is the defense response to the state's motion in limine regarding defense witness Mr. Tobin, William A. Tobin. Comes now the defendant, Richard Allen by counsel, Bradley A. Rosie, and respectfully requests that this court deny the state's motion in limine regarding defense witness file marked September 27th. In support of said request, defendant Allen states the following. The state's motion seeks to exclude the testimony of William A. Tobin. Mr. Tobin is a 27-year veteran of the Federal Bureau of Investigation with 24 years of experience at the FBI laboratory and an expert in forensic metallurgy. 3. Indiana Rules of Evidence 702 provides that an individual may be qualified as an expert and testify to matters so long as it helps the trier of fact to understand the evidence or to determine a fact at issue. Mr. Tobin's expertise and testimony will assist the trier of fact in judging the credibility of the process and protocol used in the discipline of firearms identification for the following reasons. A. Mr. Tobin has a bachelor's degree in metallurgy, a hard science that's intimately connected with the process of tool mark identification. Boone, don't you start. B. Mr. Tobin has an academic background in statistics, which is also pertinent to the process through which firearms examiners draw their conclusions. C. Mr. Tobin was previously employed with the FBI for 27 years, having worked in the FBI lab as an expert in forensic metallurgy for 24 years. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. Forensic metallurgy is an expertise that's part and parcel to the skill of tool mark identification. Mr. Tobin has testified as an expert witness on more than 200 occasions in courtrooms throughout the United States. Mr. Tobin's work and opinions were recently cited in the case of Abrukwa v. State. The High Court in Maryland ultimately vacated Abrukwa's convictions and remanded the case for a new trial. The court's decision was driven in part by the defense assertion that the underlying process of firearm identification is flawed, all of which was supported by Mr. Tobin's testimony. Mods, you can. I asked all of like the mods the other night when we were doing the Jerry Holman episode not to like block people because I didn't want to then be accused of like censoring. But now that that's over, if somebody is like alting, yeah, I don't really give a fuck. You can block them. Hooney, please. We're gonna try and get through this before Boone demands a really quick pit stop. But F, the state's examiner Melissa Oberg is nothing more than a lab technician. While she has received training in the discipline of firearms examination, anyone with a high school degree could do the same. I'm so sorry, y'all. I need to step away for like 5 minutes. I'm so sorry. I know I always do this. I linked this document in the description. Ow. So if you want to get a head start and read it, but I will be right back. I hope you're here when I get back. If not, I forgive you. But okay, BRB.
What's going on in here? Oh, shit must have left. Never mind.
but I also see some, I find that also demonstrative. So I think put in that light, that phrase to a scientist becomes more clear.
Did the IG do a complete job?
I have to indicate that I have not read the complete IG report in its entirety. I have a mixed reaction to that. I am troubled by the conclusion process. I think there's some very excellent deductions from the facts, but I also see some bad deductions and some very some short-sightedness with regard to the observations in that report. The report actually brings to my mind a racehorse or a runner that just doesn't get to the finish line. I would say, for example,
Do you think this guy's gonna cry, or do you think he's gonna keep it professional? I don't know. But anyways, this is Mr. William Tobin, very qualified gentleman here, as you can tell by his hairdo and his mustache.
as an example, there was one study I think we've discussed today that showed.
Also, this gentleman is a FBI crime lab specialist for a very long time, and he's testifying in front of the Senate, the United States Senate, and he's talking about the FBI crime lab's inability to properly test and test error rates in studies and the pitfalls of forensic science. And he's a forensic scientist. He worked in the crime lab, and he blew the whistle on the FBI.
Shows, well, backing off one sentence, in a binomial experiment where there basically are only two outcomes, a success or a failure, such as a coin toss, on average.
It is pronounced, just because I see that she's listening, metallurgy.
The heads and the tails should balance out, absent any bias in the process. If the population under study is the number of altered laboratory reports, and the data shows that 100% of the altered reports were in favor of the prosecution, and basically 0% were found to be in favor of the defendant, the finding of no prosecutorial bias astounds me statistically. Inferentially, I find that to be beyond belief. That clearly shows, from a statistics standpoint, a prosecutorial bias. Other areas, for example, the allowance that bent nails can be concluded to be blast damage under the apparently some concept in law that falls under common sense. By that criterion, I could be convicted tomorrow because I've got all kinds of blast damage around my newly constructed deck and my workshop. So, and if it falls under common sense, why do we need to have an expert witness describe this to the jury as blast damage? So,
There's a joke about how he's not very good.
I'm also troubled by some of the short-sighted observations in the report. I see that the report appears to me to go out of the way to explain some of the behavior that was prevalent in the explosives unit examiners, but I don't see that same tolerance or allowance with regard to Dr. Whitehurst's activities. I would have expected that, given the years of stonewalling by management, that they would have understood the frustrations that required continual escalation of his tactics, even to the point of having to select some rather strong words in some of his allegations. But the report offers no understanding of that frustration. I also was expecting to see that an understanding of human behavior when someone with the courage of a Dr. Whitehurst comes forward. They tend to be a magnet for complaints and about deficiencies or unethical behavior. However, when the chips are down and it comes time to raise your right hand, many of those people disappear for reasons of self-preservation. So when the conclusion is made that the majority of the allegations were unsubstantiated, I would first note that unsubstantiated does not equal untrue, but I see no allowance made in there for the fact that where there's smoke, there's fire, and in fact, they did find a number of the areas that in which he made allegations to be true. Many of those people disappear for reasons of self-preservation. However, when the chips are down and it comes time to raise your right hand, many of those and it comes time to raise your right and it comes time to raise your right hand, many of those people disappear for reasons of self-preservation. So when the conclusion is made that the majority of the allegations were unsubstantiated, I would first note that unsubstantiated, some average lab also the finding of no prosecution defendant
The face you make when Nick McClellan starts to cross-examine you.
the finding of no prosecutorial bias astounds me statistically. Inferentially, I find that to be beyond belief. That clearly shows, from a statistics standpoint, a prosecutorial.
I was skipping through them trying to produce the show, guys. Give me a fucking
Other areas, for example, the allowance that bent nails can be concluded to be blast damage under the apparently some concept in law that falls under common sense. By that criterion, I could be convicted tomorrow because I've got all kinds of blast damage around my newly constructed deck and my workshop. So
Yay, y'all. I'll be right back. I'm like so sorry. Love that y'all are still here. DB, are you doing a thing?
explosive unit examiners,
Okay.
but I don't see that same
I'm gonna shut up.
tolerance or allowance with regard to Dr. Whitehurst's activities. I would have expected that, given the years of stonewalling by management, that they would have understood the frustrations that required continual escalation of his tactics, even to the point of having to select some rather strong words in some of his allegations. But the report offers no understanding of that frustration. I also was expecting to see that the
I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm back. I mean, that may happen again, but I hope not. Can you hear me now? I was not talking that whole time. I just started talking again. I'm muted. Oh, okay. Yes or no, you can hear me now, right? Okay, let's proceed. Okay. We left off the defense clapping Oh, wait, no, we didn't. We were farther along. Okay. Yeah, Oberg. Oberg catches a stray. So the state's examiner, Melissa Oberg, is nothing more than a lab technician. She has received training in the discipline of firearm examination. Anyone with a high school degree could do the same. The state of Indiana references Dr. Eric Warren, who's an expert in firearms identification. Dr. Warren has been retained by the defense in this case. Like, can this guy talk to his own fucking friends? Nick McClellan, stop talking to our fucking friends. Stop talking to our experts, you fucking weirdo. I know, Boone. Okay. The state, in its motion in limine, attempts to compare Dr. Warren's expertise with that of Miss Oberg by pointing out that the two of them are both members of ATFE. Well, there you go. The comparison stops here. Dr. Warren has a PhD in biological sciences and is a current FTE board member. The state took Dr. Warren's deposition on October 3rd. It's October 3rd. During Dr. Warren's deposition, Dr. Warren acknowledged an academic background in metallurgy, a hard science, would be helpful in understanding the process of firearm identification. Dr. Warren testified that a background in statistics would be helpful in understanding the process of firearm identification, specifically noting that he anticipates changes and advances in the field, which will be driven by new statistical approaches to summarizing the findings of any particular examination. It's October 3rd. Oh, Melissa, that was my dog. He's back. He's being kind of a little gremlin demon right now. He will probably wander around and make spooky shadows throughout the live. Hey, Peggy. Okay. Dr. Warren testified that the critical community within which Mr. Tobin associates has been helpful in moving the firearms identification forward by pushing for new and better processes. Finally, Dr. Warren testified that there does exist a healthy debate in the industry as to whether or not the findings of firearm examiners should be inadmissible in courtrooms across the country. And in fact, there is a movement towards examiners being less definitive about their conclusions in courtroom settings. Mr. Tobin's testimony is relevant of these are the Indiana Rules of Evidence 402 for the following reasons. The President's Council of Advisors on Science have been critical for many years of the methodology of tool mark examiners across the country. The National Academy of Sciences have issued 2 reports, one in 2008 and one in 2009, that were both critical in part of the accreditation, certification, and lack of independence of laboratories conducting firearms examinations. Mr. Tobin is intimately familiar with the findings and work of both PCAST and the NAS as it relates to the discipline of firearm identification. The concept of understanding a process which generates any result, whether it be in a laboratory setting or in the course of one's daily activities, is relevant to understanding the meaning of the result. It's hard to argue with that. He's more than okay. Boone is he's very okay. He just wants more food. And he can't have more food because then he will be sick because he gets pretty much everything he wants because he's a prince. There was a question in here I wanted to. It kind of feels like the defense is just having done a trial on paper by themselves. It does feel like that. Simply put, Mr. Tobin's testimony tends to prove that the process of examining firearms and drawing conclusions from those examinations is unreliable and misleading, and therefore the conclusions offered up by the state examiner should be given little to no weight. Dr. Tobin's opinion on these matters is relevant to the credibility of the state's lab technician who examined evidence in the case. Finally, the state cites the case of State of Indiana versus Caden Smith. This is a trial court case out of Marion County, Indiana, which is currently up on appeal. The court's order in Smith provides very little rationale for the court's decision to exclude Mr. Tobin's testimony regarding the firearms examination process. To the extent that the state wants to offer up trial court level authority to support its claim, Defendant Allen would draw the court's attention to the case of People of Illinois versus Ricky Winfield, a circuit court case out of Cook County, Illinois. The Winfield decision was handed down on February 8th, 2023. The court in Winfield was critical of the discipline of firearm identification altogether. The court ultimately drew the conclusion that the state was entirely prohibited from introducing any testimony from their alleged experts regarding firearm identification specific to the case. Judge Hook's rationale was articulated over in a 41-page opinion. The Smith case, offered up by the state, contains no such analysis. It's for these reasons that the court should deny the state's motion in limine regarding Mr. Tobin's testimony. Brad Rosie. One second, y'all. Okay, so basically, it will be hard to argue with that. Will they do it anyway? Yes. Actually, no, they won't even bother. She'll just deny it, the state, or she'll just grant the state's motion, or she'll have a hearing. She'll hold one for prosperity, and then we'll put cotton in her ears the whole time. This is a great point, and it's what I want to talk about for the rest of the live. Shay Watson says, Judge Gull cannot possibly have... Oh, wait. Sorry. Are you talking about Sarah Boone, or are you talking about Rick Allen? I want to make sure I'm not putting words in your mouth. Because I just saw that we were talking about... Oh, here we go. I was thinking the other day, it seems Gull is trying the case through these hearings. She should be hearing the evidence when the jury does. Absolutely. 1,000%. Gull can't possibly have an unbiased trial when she scripted the trial beforehand. She has scripted the trial beforehand, and we are going to look at examples of exactly how we know that she's doing this. Aside from having eyes, ears, and a brain, she's going to make them argue it during trial and admonish them for wasting the jury's time. Yes, and she's also, notice she hasn't issued a ruling on the crime scene. Although, did she want to have a hearing on? Maybe she wanted a hearing first, which is like, now you want a hearing? Now she wants a fucking hearing? Huh. Interesting. Boone is like, this is really funny because he runs my life, but he's also like this like little like shadowy figure behind me. I didn't realize that y'all can see him like pacing because he walks in front of the light. Hi, Oksana. I can see why Nick does not want him. Hi, DB. If you're here and you have a thing to do, you can do your thing. If not...
It's an honor to introduce Fred Whitehurst, who blew the whistle on the FBI crime lab. He told me when he came up last night that we started representing him 26 years ago. And Fred had a celebrated case, high profile, testified in the O.J. Simpson case, the World Trade Center 1 case. He made a lot of news in the FBI lab, but really his mission, he really only wanted one, well, actually two things. One thing he wanted to do was to ensure that FBI agents from the FBI lab, when they went into court, would tell the truth. And the second thing he wanted was to find out who got hurt. And he has spent the last 20-something years since his settlement at the FBI searching for those who got hurt. And it has taken that long, and people are finally being released from prison today because of DNA technology and other things that actually enables people. But he's going to come up here. Come on up, Fred. He is going to tell us about what he's been doing.
You know, Jane talks about how bad we hurt, and then I say, oh, darn. The people that have spent time in prison make our heart pale. I'm going to tell you about a particular case that highlights what I'm talking about. On the 3rd day of August 1989, an FBI agent by the name of William Tobin reported that one of his fellow agents had given false and misleading testimony in hearings involving then-sitting U.S. District Judge Alcee Hastings. 27 times is what Mr. Tobin said, Agent Tobin said. He gave that to his managers, and this is what they did with it. At that point, that agent should have been taken offline, and everything he did reviewed at that point. Human lives, people on death row, people in prison, at that point, yes. On the 12th day of December 2017, Judge Todd Edelman, in a memorandum opinion and order vacating the conviction of Derry Nelson. Mr. Nelson, stand up. Of Mr. Derry Nelson. "33 years later, Mr. Nelson spent 33 years in prison because no one would listen. This is what Judge Edelman said. Central as it was to this trial, Malone's testimony rested on a foundation of lies and exaggerations. There's a human face attached to this tragedy. There's a human face. This is a real story. And so we hurt and we cried and our families got hurt and oh darn, come on, oh darn. He just got out the 1st of March. And you know what? He can't stand here and rant and rave because he's under a gag order. They're going to retry him. He can't say anything to you. He's under a gag order. And we will respect that gag order. But I'm not. I'm not. That one of his fellow agents had given false. August 1989, an FBI agent by the name of William Tobin reported that one of his fellow agents had given false and misleading testimony in hearings involving then-sitting U.S. District Judge Alcee Hastings. 27 times is what Mr. Tobin said, Agent Tobin said. He gave that to his managers, and this is what they did with it. At that point, that agent should have been taken offline.
Thank you, DB. Hey, DB, can you link that video in the chat for anyone who wants to watch it? Please. If not, I can, if you're gone, I can share later. I don't know why this keeps happening. Maybe I move around too much. It doesn't sound like something I would do. Okay. Still? Maybe I can put the important, yeah. Or I'll do it later, DB. Don't do it right now. Hey, Estrella, good to see you. Yeah, my camera can't maintain focus. Cleveland says, now Nick is going to request. Oh, sorry. Peggy O says 20 years from now, we'll be watching someone else give the same speech. Yeah, wouldn't be surprised. Cleveland says now Nick is going to request Tobin's work records. That's funny. Okay, so I wanted to, I imagine that Tobin will be discussed later. I really want to look at something that I was thinking about earlier today, because this is not the first, so the defense first filed a motion in limine about the ballistics, trying to get the bullet excluded back in June 2023. And I want to review what went down, kind of like the series of events. And I'm going to be using oh my gosh. All eyes on Delphi's CCS, which I am linking right now. Yes. Thank you, woman. So if we take a gander together, so the first mention of anything regarding the bullet and trying to eliminate out the ballistics evidence was June 13th, 2023. Mr. Rosie, defense attorney, filed this, and this was filed prior to the June 15th hearing, which would be addressing safekeeping and a number of other issues that I can't remember right now. But certainly, let's pull up the motion in limine that they filed. So in June, Mr. Rosie says, Richard Allen by counsel moves this court as follows. Defendant Allen's charged with 2 separate counts of felony murder. Let me make this bigger. Okay, Mr. Allen was charged with 2 felony murder. Counsel for Allen, upon information and belief, has reasonable cause to believe that the prosecution intends to introduce as evidence the following. Testimony from laboratory analyst Melissa Oberg and or her agent supporting the findings referenced in ISP lab report analysis attached Exhibit A. Testimony from lab analyst Melissa Oberg and or her agent supporting the findings referenced in ISP report Exhibit B. Bench notes and other literature and information in support of conclusions generated in the attached Exhibits A and B. This evidence is inadmissible for the following reasons. The items analyzed and conclusions drawn are irrelevant and therefore inadmissible. The probative value of said evidence is substantially outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice. Furthermore, admission of such information will confuse and mislead the jury. Testimony regarding the analysis and conclusions referenced in A and B, and that the examiner is not qualified to draw the referenced conclusion. And in addition, the examiner's testimony does not rest upon reliable scientific principles. Wherefore, counsel respectfully requests this motion in limine be granted and request the court to order the state of Indiana not to mention, refer to, interrogate, or attempt to convey to the jury in any manner, directly or indirectly, the existence of any analysis conducted with regards to Exhibit A or B, as well as any conclusions, therefore, without first obtaining permission from the court outside the jury, and instruct the state of Indiana and its witnesses not to make any reference to the fact that this motion has been granted. That's so funny because while that request, I clap on that little, I'm sorry, I'm getting like, hold on one second now. I'm getting like blown up and I'm trying to ignore it, but. Okay. Focus mode. You're right. Mandy, I'm so glad you're here. You missed a defense clap motion that we just read. And that's about it. Sleuthy says it's not me this time. Mandy, I hope you're feeling okay. Everybody drop one in the chat if you love Mandy, and also if you think she's the best, and also if... Is it home opinion? No, I don't think so. Although, who knows? Okay. So it's very basic motion. He attaches the exhibits, which I don't even want to... oh wait, have I not been... Y'all, I'm so sorry. I need to get my life together. I thought I was sharing the whole time. Doesn't matter. The document that I just read has been linked in this video description, so y'all can go and read it more carefully. And this is Exhibit A that they attached in the June 2023 motion in Limine. And this is Exhibit B. I don't even want to go over them because I'm not qualified to even like comment on them because I don't understand them at all. So I'm gonna let like DB or someone handle that another time. But he includes those exhibits, files that motion, and then the next thing that happens is we have the June 15th hearing in Carroll County. It's the first like evidentiary hearing in this case. This transcript is thanks to Criminality Teresa. Okay, so very beginning of the trial, Judge Gull says, before we get started, I'll remind everyone of the decorum order. You've all been very kind and waiting for us. We had some discussions in chambers about how things would be proceeding today. I would like to start by advising everyone that we've had the opportunity to review the file and have some discussions in chambers about confidential pleadings that have been filed with the court over the last several months. With the agreement of counsel, and I do appreciate the agreement of counsel. Hey, T. Oh my gosh. I just mentioned you. We're reading the, someone once called this the nipple transcript because of the watermarks. Not that they look like that, but that has stuck in my head ever since. And so that's what I refer to it as. But this transcript is thanks to our wonderful, beautiful, brilliant friend, Teresa, Criminality. If someone can link her channel in the chat. If not, I can do it after. But hi, T. T's nippies. Love you. Okay. Okay. So Judge Gull says, with agreement of counsel, I do appreciate the agreement. I'll be entering an order sometime next week that will unseal all of the pleadings that have been submitted by the court. My court executive will create a web page, and I will provide that web page address to counsel. We will download all of the unsealed documents to that web page, and then they'll be available to whomever wishes to review what's previously been deemed to be confidential. That sounds so great. Almost too good to be true, right? I would remind the attorneys that they are still working under the gag that prohibits comments and discussions with the media. Here is where I want us to focus. Judge Gull says, I know that we're here on a motion to suppress evidence and a motion to reconsider the safekeeping order. But consistent with our discussions in chambers, the motion to suppress evidence will be continued to be reset. So she's going to continue the hearing, the evidentiary hearing that the defense requested, suppressing the fruits of the search of Rick's home and suppressing the ballistics evidence. She said, we're going to reset that hearing to a later date. And here she says, I know we didn't come up with a date yet, but we will. Before the conclusion of the hearing, come up with a date to reset the suppression hearing. I would ask the defense attorneys to file the Franks v. Delaware notice to the state, and then we can reset the suppression hearing at that time. So Mr. Rosie and Mr. Baldwin, are you ready to proceed on the motion to reconsider the safekeeping order? So essentially what Judge Gull has been doing from basically the moment Brad and Andy had the audacity to defend their client from the state's prejudicial bullshit and issued a responding press statement in December of 2022. Judge Gull has convicted Richard Allen in her mind and his attorneys. She believes them that they are incompetent, they dared be defiant, insubordinate, whatever. She's placating and playing very nice in the beginning of this hearing, but she's lying through her fucking teeth because she didn't want to have an evidentiary hearing on this day at this public hearing, because that would mean that the defense would get to present the evidence that they have to support their claims. So she basically tricked them into being agreeable to resetting the hearing and having it at a later date, because she basically promised them, hey, just file this little thing called a Franks notice to the state. Once you file that little Franks thing, I'll go ahead and reset the suppression hearing. Then we can all she said was, I would ask the defense to file the Franks notice to the state, and then we can reset the suppression hearing at that time. She never said that I'm going to take 6 months to read the Franks memo and then deny it, and then deny the subsequent 3 additional Franks memos that you file and give you no opportunity for a hearing. She didn't say that. She said, just file the Franks notice and we'll reset the suppression hearing at that time. They've still not had a fucking suppression hearing. The only one they had came a year and a month later, July 30th, 31st, and August 1st of this year. They finally got their fucking suppression hearing. So she lied. She lied to the defense counsel in June 2015 to get them off her back, to keep them agreeable, and to keep them compliant. And she lied. We also didn't realize at the time that Judge Gull basically dismissed the defense's witness. Right. If the Franks, oh, did I not explain that? Yeah. If the Franks was granted, the suppression hearing would be needed. So a Franks hearing is a type of suppression hearing, I believe, based specifically on lies and omissions of law enforcement and the search warrant specifically. So because I imagine they requested to suppress the fruits of that search based on the search warrant and other probably confidential in-chambers conversations they had, Judge Gull's like, oh, you need to file a Franks notice. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, I misread that, DB. I'm dumb. Okay. If the Franks was granted, no suppression would be needed. Right, because the case would be dismissed, because there'd be no search warrant, there'd be no evidence, and there'd be no charges. So, right. I hope I'm understanding that. Okay, DB. So in my opinion, and this is all my opinion, I don't believe Judge Gull ever intended on granting the defense a Franks hearing, ever. For starters, that would mean that there was some believability or merit to the claims the defense was making that the state was fucking around, doing something untoward, doing something dishonest. And Judge Gull's a cop, basically. She's basically a cop, so she's not going to do anything that's going to undermine or paint the state in a bad light. Like, let's be real. She had no intention of granting that Franks hearing. She just didn't want to hold a suppression hearing on this day. She could have. You don't need a fucking Franks notice to have she could have reset the search warrant, the fruits of the search. She could have reset that issue for another day. I guess technically because the bullet was obtained via, but like, okay. I'm trying to it just wasn't necessary. But regardless, she also lied because she told them, if you file this, then you'll get a hearing. And they didn't get a hearing. And then they tried 3 more times to just get a hearing, and they didn't get a hearing. What is she so afraid of coming out at a hearing? She's the judge. She shouldn't have an opinion on evidence that hasn't been presented to her yet. this was the first indication, and I know we didn't actually get this transcript until months, like half a year later. Okay, DB is gonna correct me. Seems reasonable for judicial economy. Why have a suppression hearing when you have an issue on a Franks motion that could be tossed if the Franks was granted? That seems like good bait. Right. I agree. She's presenting it as a very reasonable, like, that makes perfect sense. Why conduct an entire suppression hearing on ballistics evidence if we're going to then later, a Franks hearing might just make that whatever decision comes from that like moot. So, I mean, it does seem like a good idea, certainly. But the issue, I think, at play here is that Judge Gull was being dishonest, in my opinion. She never had any intention of granting a Franks hearing. I don't think. Hey, Pop Tardy. Thank you, DB. Right. Granting of Franks would squash the gun and everything, so. Okay. So instead, fuck your suppression hearings. Let's just do a safekeeping hearing. And by the way, says Judge Gull, I dismissed your key witness from being present at this safekeeping hearing. Baston was supposed to be there to testify to what he saw and heard and experienced as it relates to, I said squash. Oh, DB said squash. It would squash and quash. It would squash, quash. Okay, so that's one thing I want to show. And then she doesn't issue an order on, and again, I'm not sharing my screen. I'm sorry. So she would not issue an order on the ballistics motion for over 6 months later. She's such a loser. Like, I'm sorry. This judge is a loser. And it has nothing to do, it's not even just her decisions. Her orders and her decisions, the way that she conducts her courtroom is incredibly biased, in my opinion. But that's not even like my main issue. A lot of judges are biased and state leaning. This woman is a liar. We've caught her, like, she has been caught in how many lies? She went before cameras and the public on the 19th of October after she had literally coerced the defense off the case behind closed doors via a prepared statement that she read to them, that she planned to read to the public. She then went before the media and said, we had an unexpected turn of events, ladies and gentlemen, because she didn't anticipate that transcript of what occurred behind closed doors a few minutes earlier would ever be made public, because normally people just do what the fuck Judge Gull tells them to do. And then the transcript came out and we said, holy shit, this woman, this was an ambush. It was not an unexpected turn of events, ladies and gentlemen. It was completely expected because she literally facilitated it. And then she lied to the public and to the families of the victims and to the attorneys and to the defendant. She lied to his face. She lied to everybody. She is a naughty and a bad. You're right, Post-Punk. It's nice to see you, by the way. I feel like I've missed you. While Gull is jerking around for months and years and worried about a jury questionnaire, she makes a legally innocent person sit in prison. Sure does. Hi, USA Lib. Nice to see you. I mean, libertarian. Her YouTube, Judge Gull's YouTube name would be All Eyes on My Lies. Love that. Anyway, January 2024, she finally gets around to issuing an order on stuff and things. The court having had defendant's motion for Franks, the memo in support of the Franks, the supplemental motion, the additional Franks, and the state's objection filed June 13th, and the state's second objection. Yeah, because she gave them 6 months to object. The court finds the affidavit submitted in support of the issuance of the search warrant contained information that a reasonable belief existed. Okay, so there's that. The court does not find the affidavit submitted false statements, or that the affiant omitted statements with reckless disregard. 4 Franks memos later, innumerable misstatements and omissions proven, and that's not even in a hearing, that's just on paper. And she's like, nah. Defendant's motion to suppress the fruits of the search, filed May 2023, 9 months earlier, denied based upon all the things, basically. She's like, based on all the things that I certainly gave much consideration and attention and weight, and like, it's denied based on all the pleadings, memos, and exhibits previously submitted in support. Defendant's motion in limine regarding ballistics, filed in June, is reviewed and denied without a hearing. Okay. So she said that she'd reset a hearing, and then she didn't, because the Franks memo was denied. So then the hearing becomes relevant concerning the ballistics. And she's like, nope. Woman says, Jesus knows what she's doing. Jesus knows. Woman, I hate to tell you, Jesus has not been in Carroll County for a very long time. Jesus don't want shit to do with Carroll County. Mm-mm. Yep. USA Libertarian. What if the search warrant had been suppressed? RA would have sat in prison for 6 months and then been released. You know, if Judge Gull had granted the, well, if Judge Gull had actually considered the evidence presented in the defense's April emergency safekeeping motion from 2023, like if she had actually given that any consideration and actually given a shit about the defendant and truth and justice and all the things, they wouldn't have their 61 confessions, because Rick would have been fucking removed from Westville, as he should have been, because he never should have been there in the first place. The evidence won't confuse or mislead the jury. So your fake ballistics evidence from your unfired round that you found buried in the dirt, crusted over and rusty from probably months or years before the murders ever occurred, that bullet casing that was not fired, that was then compared to your fucking fired bullets or whatever the fuck they did, Miss Oberg did, that's not going to confuse the jury. Your pseudoscience is not going to confuse the jury at all. They can handle it. But what will definitely confuse the jury is the explicit, detailed confessions of other third-party suspects that contain information that actually only the killer or someone there would know. False alibis. Like, are we seeing what does Michelle say? What's good for the goose, the goosey, the Beetle Goose quote about the goose. Like, she's not applying the rules in a uniform way. There have been so many examples of bias. She issued this order 4 days after the defense got put back on the case. 4 days after the defense is reinstated, the Supreme Court overturned her. Overturned her decision, but they kept her on the case. Do you see the ramifications of the Supreme Court tail tucking and not doing the hard right thing and instead doing the easy wrong thing, which was keeping Judge Gull on the case and giving her the benefit of the doubt and believing that she was going to change her behavior and like straighten the fuck up? She didn't. They emboldened her because 4 days later, she issues this bullshit, and she's been on her bullshit ever since. And she's not going to stop. And we're going to have a trial in 7 days. Rick's going to get convicted because she's not going to admit any fucking evidence that should be admitted. She's probably out there already. Doesn't matter. Sometimes juries are confused because the state's case doesn't make any sense. That makes perfect sense to me. if you're not letting the jury hear actual evidence and you're not giving them all the facts that they need to make an informed decision based on evidence, then yeah, they're going to be really confused. Hey, Colonel Network. I'm screaming. This woman's embarrassing. I get so much secondhand, like, my insular cortex, you know, that the disgust reflex in our brain, like, I get so much disgust from her and her conduct. I expect this bullshit from the state and from Nick McClellan and from cops. It's really disheartening to see it from a sitting judge who has been reprimanded by the highest court in the state, and it only emboldens her. What else was I going to read? There's like another thing. I got myself all worked up. Oh. Okay, I'm getting distracted. I don't know why I can't. Oh, there you are. I agree with you, Torso. And I also agree with you. So, all right, I want to read some of your comments. Remember when Judge Gull said that she would lock any YouTubers up and hold them in contempt if they didn't return all alleged leaked photos? She has no authority to threaten charges on the public. She's insane. She sure is. She also has no authority to bar a private citizen from her courtroom because they had a verbal confrontation on public property outside the courtroom, which is not a crime. Hopefully, the defense makes it clear that it's not the jury's job to fill in the blanks of the state's story. Sure, but then Nick McClellan's going to be like, you went on spring break and you came back and there's a puddle in your yard. So there's a snowman there, right? 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 And they're going to be like, okay, sure. Angela Bob rant. Let's get something straight. Bob does Andrans. I've been ranting for 20 years. Okay, I've been on this rant shit for 20 years, Bob. I'm just kidding. Bob clapped me in the live earlier. I don't know if y'all saw it. And then we made amends because he half read one of my comments. Gull was emboldened because she's narcissistic. Normal people would feel shame and humility. Yeah, she doesn't feel any of that. Judges don't do what she's done in this case. Yeah, maybe some of what she's done, but by the time... Okay, but here's like my problem. Here's one of my many problems. I don't blame Judge Gull for doing what she does because it's allowed. She's faced zero consequences from her behavior. Zero. She hasn't experienced a single consequence as a result of her bias, irresponsible, unprofessional, illegal, i.e. not in line with law actions, right? There's no consequences for Judge Gull. So why would she change her behavior? I wouldn't. If I were her, like, ooh, YouTubers calling me corrupt and biased. Who gives a fuck? You think Judge Gull gives a fuck about that? She doesn't give a fuck if the public thinks she's a narcissistic witch. The only thing that matters to her is her position of authority, and she still has it. And the approval of her Supreme Court peers, which you think that she listened to a thing that they said about her bias during oral arguments? No. The only thing she heard was Judge Gull is still on this case, i.e., they emboldened her. So yeah, she's not going to change. it would have been really nice to see. Cammy says, Bob clapped me in a live once when I asked him if he was a Nepo baby. That's okay. He earned that Nepo baby. I mean, he's a Nepo baby who also went through law school and did all the things you got to do. So, like, good for you, Bob. That's okay. So there is going to be a trial in a week-ish. Jury selection in Allen County in a week, and then a trial on the 17th in Carroll County. Okay, Gull. So the media has recently started to actually do some reporting on things that they should have been digging into and reporting on a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago when Rick was arrested is when I would have started asking these questions. But for whatever reason, in my opinion, there's been I said this last night, a very tepid, reserved, kind of indifferent response from the media. I think at the beginning, they were asking for things to be unsealed, and then Dina recused, and Judge Gull came in, and she had to earn favor with the public. She's the new judge. She's going to come in and, oh my gosh, the Supreme Court appointed her. She means business. She needed to earn favor with the public and with the court and with the attorneys. So she was fine at the beginning. I mean, I'd like to know why it took her 10 days to appoint attorneys to the defendant who was sitting in DOC, but regardless, she got them attorneys, and they're good attorneys. So that's good. She held a hearing and she unsealed the PCA. That's good. She took that bullshit petition that was created and authored by a false Facebook Hun who's not even a real person with 30,000 signatures and said, get that out of my face. That was good. And then they held a hearing in November 2022 about a gag order, and they're like, we probably don't need one. We're going to all conduct ourselves fine. And then Nick McClellan goes out and he puts out a press release on ISP letterhead and says, we feel very confident about our case against Richard Allen. We're very confident. The state has a really good case. Trust us. You can't do that shit. That's prejudicial. So then the defense is allowed to put out a statement to refute that. That's literally allowed. Trial rules, the trial rule that Gull cites that she says the defense violated in their press release, it literally allows for the defense or for the state, whomever is the prejudiced party, even though I don't think the state can be prejudiced, all they did was refute the prejudicial bullshit of the state. But they didn't say anything that wasn't known. I know I'm like rehashing. I just can't wrap my head around what the media has been doing for a year and a half. Because as soon as she issued a gag order, an overbroad gag order, I know that happens all the time, but like if anyone was really paying attention and looking at the timing of events, like there were signs all the way back then that this was some bullshit. And then we didn't hear anything from the media from December 2022 until April 2023, when the defense finally blew the whistle of the fact that the state and DOC was trying to kill Rick Allen and had almost succeeded. And then the media is like, oh. And they still didn't do anything. I guess at that time there wasn't really much to be done. But it would have been really nice to have some hearings set and broadcast. I don't remember why the hearing in June wasn't broadcast. I don't remember. Maybe no one asked for it, but Y'all are funny. Shay says, because of the conspired involvement of the prosecutor's office of the court, there's fraud on the court and maybe some honorable judges and lawyers will prosecute them after. I would love for somebody to be held accountable for something, you know. Miko, I've missed you. Miko, where the fuck have you been, friend? Oh. Have you been in a Ragnarok hole? I'm glad that you peeked out to come visit. I love you. Yeah, we done missed you. I don't know if you missed things, but you were missed. You were very missed. You did miss a very professional and great live where DB and I reviewed some news footage of the emergency management director in Carroll County. I might go back and watch that. That's probably the only thing that I might watch. It was pretty integral to understanding stuff and things. Miko did a miss. Midterms. You're gonna crush it. Criminal laws doesn't miss Miko at all. That's okay. I miss you both when you're not here. Even townships do meeting. Yep. How can someone subpoena texts and emails between Gull and McClelland? They'd have to ask for them. And I'm sure they wouldn't get them, but they would have to at least start. The process starts with just asking for them. FOIA. I don't know how many FOIAs have been filed related to this case because we don't hear about it. So I was ranting earlier about, I think, to Sleuthy. Actually, I'm just going to pull it up because okay. So related to the June 2015 hearing, the defense requests a suppression hearing on ballistics, and they also want to suppress the fruits of the search, which means the search warrant is coming into question, which means they need a Franks hearing. So it's like, okay, you have to do things in order. Understandable. Judicial economy. So Judge Gull is like, file a Franks notice, and then I'll set your hearing for that, and then we can talk about your ballistics evidence. Nope, because she had every intention of denying the Franks hearing, and she did. And then she didn't even give them a ballistic. So, okay, so the Franks hearing was denied, so the search warrant is fine. So then why wouldn't they get a ballistics? Why wouldn't they get to present their evidence for their motion in limine on ballistics? Like, what changed? I don't get it. Miku is studying bisexuality's cross-section with ADHD and autism. Miku is studying basically all of us here. We love that. I'm here for Angie's pretty lip today and Kathy's statement. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. I've been told I don't have a top lip, so that means a lot, Pop-Tarty. I appreciate it. I believe emails exchanged on government router work computers can be obtained with FOIA. I believe you're right, Shay. So back in before the arrest, when we were in the midst of when we were litigating our thing with Carroll County Sheriff's Department, we FOIA'd a bunch of emails and we were told to fucking pound sand. I mean, just because they can and should doesn't mean that they're going to comply, because then they say no and then someone has to hold them accountable. For example, here's what this would look like in a perfect world. In 2019, a reporter with Fox 59 requested, yeah, DB, let's do that. But let me finish this one thought, DB, and then you can take it away, because if I don't, then I'll forget. A reporter with Fox 59 made a public records request to Carroll County Emergency 911. So Carroll County Emergency 911 is not part of law enforcement. It's not an entity of the Sheriff's Department or the police. It's its own entity, and it answers actually to the Carroll County Commissioners, are like above E911, okay, because it's a county department. So this reporter makes a request to E911 for the 911 calls related to the November 21st, 2016 Flora arson fire that resulted in the death of 4 children. So she makes a request, a public records request for the 911 calls, which is public information. Legally, they're public. They are subject to public access laws and FOIA, etc. So the 911 director says, okay, let me just run this by my boss. For whatever reason, she asks the prosecutor, Nick Cleland, and he says no. So she says no. It's part of an investigative, an ongoing investigation, blah, blah, blah. Fine. So she asked for an opinion from the Indiana Public Access Counselor, Luke Britt. Hey, I got this decision based on this public access request. I would like an official opinion from the public access counselor. So Luke Britt issues an opinion on the matter and says that is a violation of public access. They should have granted her request. Those records are public. They're not part of any ongoing investigation because the 911 calls historically aren't. And actually, I'm gonna share the opinion after because it's really good. I mean, obviously, the public access counselor has no teeth, and over the years, legislation in Indiana has given him less and less authority. But it's still important to know that, like, he agreed with the reporter. Like, this is public access, and the public has a right to this. So. Yeah, thank you, Kat. And I know that I think that we've talked about this before, but anyone who has more info, or if I'm like getting the details wrong, because it's been a while since I did a video on it. I did a really long Twitter thread that I don't have anymore with a ton of research and links in it. So I'm like rusty on the details, but the basics of it are Aisha, I think was her name. The reporter, after hitting so many roadblocks in obtaining this public information, she filed a lawsuit. She filed suit in Carroll County for public access. That happens a lot. Like, that's not some crazy, unheard of action for the media to take, especially when you're dealing with something like as important as the safety of the public and like the homicides of children. Like, the public has a right to information. Police are not the only. Sorry. Anyway, so Fox 59 and a bunch of media entities piled onto that. And they filed suit. And they ended up taking it all the way to the appellate court. They could have appealed it further. What was I going to say? The trial court, I think they held it in Marion County, I want to say, for whatever reason. And trial court agreed with the reporters, with the media, that this is public access and ordered the county to turn it over. No, I haven't got to it yet. I swear I'm going to read it in a minute. So Carroll County spent over $30,000 appealing. Thank you, Phoebe. Appealing. Do you have, actually, so that's helpful. Y'all can go read the appellate decision. I want to also share later, and I have a folder of it. I just want to share the original suit that was filed, and I have like a bunch of stuff, but this is where you can read the appellate decision. So anyway, Carroll County appealed that. They refused so spectacularly to hand over these 911 tapes that were public access, in spite of the court, the PAC and the trial court, the trial court agreeing with the media and with the public. They're like, no. So they spent over $30,000 taking it to the appellate court, and the appellate court overturned the trial court's decision. And instead of appealing it further, I mean, we're not talking like a little tiny local media entity. We're talking like Fox 59 in tandem with like Associated Press, ABC, like all of the local stations fall under the umbrella of larger national, international, enormous news, like corporations and organizations with the best attorneys in the world at their beck and call. So it wasn't a fiscal thing. I don't know why they didn't take it further, because they set this just annoying, stupid precedent in the eyes of Carroll County, at least, and emboldened them that they don't have to turn anything over to the public, because if someone sues them, then they can just go to the appellate court and be heard and win there. It's like you give them an inch and they just fucking steamroll you for 100 miles. It's awful. Okay, so this is the case that I was just ranting about. This is the appellate decision. Asha Hasni. Okay, that's her name. So this is just the facts of the case. Carroll County appeals the trial court's entry. Whether the 911 calls are an exception to the public access rules, and whether the trial court abused its discretion when it permitted Fox 59 to substitute itself for an employee. So Hasni left and Fox 59 substituted. Okay, whatever. Facts and procedural history. So this is what I wanted just to... Oh, look, we recognize that name. So these are all the county's reasons for denying the request that Hasni made for the 911 calls. Okay, so she requested these only a few months later, and this was litigated and wasn't decided until 2020. Do you know how much money the county probably spent appealing this? Why not just release the fucking tapes? What could possibly be on those tapes? And the answer presumably is really nothing. I mean, traumatic, horrible, devastating, evidence of a catastrophic event, obviously very traumatic, but there's nothing on those tapes that, like, what are they so worried about? And that's why I don't think it's really about the content of the tapes. I think that it's about maintaining the status quo, which is we do whatever the fuck we want, however the fuck we want, whenever the fuck we want, and nobody, not a trial court, not an appellate court, not even the Indiana Supreme Court, can tell us that we can't. And thus far, nobody has told them that they can't. So they just do. They just go. They just go, go, go. So now we're in a situation where, and I read Andrea Burkhart's tweet thread from the other day, but she said something really, really, really poignant and observant for somebody who's been observing as an outsider, not inundated and immersed like a lot of us are. I don't think she's just a brilliant attorney and is able to look at signs and evidence and use her brain and come to a conclusion based on that. You know, she can interpret facts and evidence and comes to her own conclusion. And her conclusion is this investigation has facilitated so much hostility for public interest when it convenienced and benefited them. So they love bomb the public in the beginning and tell the public that they need their tips and that they're so grateful. Oh my God, this community brought us fucking sandwiches and shit when we were busy trying to solve crime. They brought us food. They did our laundry. But then when that stops benefiting them and they need the public to get off their ass and leave them alone, then they're hostile towards the public and they blame the public. So they've blamed the public for how many things have the investigation blamed the public for? That's what I thought too, Radar. But even then, that wouldn't be the county's fault. That would be like, okay, but as if there's never been a racial slip on a 911 call, unless it was like a dispatcher. But like, they're not going to bat to the tune of like $50,000 plus in this county just to defend an E911. Like, they would just throw that person under the bus. Like, you know, and I've thought about like that. Maybe there's something really incriminating and disgusting and racial on the tapes. But one, Galen's attorney, through the civil case, seems to kind of refute that. You know, she kind of suggests, Alvarez is her name, she kind of suggests there's really not anything on there except what sounds of a mass chaos, horrible, fucking tragic event. And it's traumatic, yeah. But there's nothing on there that would be too, yeah. So I don't know, but I have thought about that. I mean, that's the kind of thing that I could see, like, I agree though, like why hide it? And I do think that it's bigger than that. I think it's more of maintaining control and status quo. Same reason Judge Gull is digging her heels in and not even making baby concessions and compromises. It's a lot of money. And we don't even know how much they spend in the end, because when you make public inquiries for budget info, they just blow you off and then they give you bullshit ones. I don't think so, Peggy. Well, so it would have had to have been either a member of the public who called 911, which, you know, they don't have any duty to not be racist, right? So that wouldn't matter. And then nobody that was involved in those calls would be like Brady it wouldn't be relevant, because the dispatcher is just a county employee. They're not like they're not sworn officer. They're not sworn law enforcement. They're just like, I could apply, you know, tomorrow and get it. I'm not saying it's not a hard job, but they're not law enforcement and they're not prosecutors. So no, it wouldn't be Brady material unless, I mean, and I've gone, you know, people have kind of for the past few years gone over this again and again, trying to figure out why. Like Deb Lowe, I have a really good video. It's really good. It's good because it's all Deb, basically, Deb Lowe. But people DB, but like, wouldn't you have to be law enforcement or a prosecutor? Or could an E9 like? Right. I was about to clap about something. Respect my authority, Thick Red Shirt says. Right. The defense would, more often than not, we see defense attorneys trying to protect their client from, you know, being prejudiced. The defense is often the one trying to keep things sealed and all of that. So that's weird. My point is, and then I'm going to go, it's not unusual. In fact, it's very normal. In fact, I would argue it's the job of the media to hold public officials and the state accountable. And the way that the media is able to do that is through like bearing witness and then transparency and disseminating information to the public, reporting, investigating and reporting. And we've had none of that for 7 years. Not by the entities and the powers that be that actually have the resources and the pull and the lawyers and the clout and the time and the energy to actually like invoke any meaningful change. We've been screaming about the same shit for like 2 years. And that's fine, but Judge Gull doesn't give a fuck about us. Judge Gull, people like Judge Gull only respond and only do the right thing when their hand is forced. And the way that you force a judge to do the right thing is you take them to the court, and the court tells them they have to do the right thing. Unless, of course, the court protects them, which a lot of times they do. But a lot of, like, so I talked about Karen Reed the other night. I agree, True Grit. And I've seen incredible effort. I'm not talking about the public at all. Like the general public, even like small time investigative journalists and YouTubers. And I'm talking about like ABC, Associated Press, Hoosier Media Association, the powerhouse like media, the media, the capital M media, because there's only so much that independent journalists and investigators and even small local channels, I think they really do try. Yeah, Peggy, I mean, yeah, maybe. Oh, Kathy's statement. And then I'm going to end with Kathy's statement. I'm going to read it. So Kathy Allen has responded through her attorney to the absolute bullshit fuckery, nonsense, rumors, and lies that have been circulating via the Facebook Huns and other entities for a few weeks now, making really harmful allegations, in my opinion, or harmful statements, in my opinion, harmful to both her marriage, her personally, harmful to the defendant and his safety and his wellness and his sense of security. I mean, just very harmful rumors. And so Kathy has responded. Kathy's lawyer has responded. Court TV just published this, so I'm going to read theirs, and that way I don't have to credit anyone other than Court TV. So thank you, Court TV. Good looking out. Veronica, yes, me too.
Fuck
Hey,
Court TV.
Also true. Valid. Fuck Court TV, 100%. But Court TV gave me an out of having to thank two thankless schools, so. Gays over Gulls. We're going to start selling merch. I swear. It's going to happen. Hey, KLL. Okay, here's the statement. Oh, you should push the share button, Angela. That would be helpful. Okay. This weekend, Kathy Allen's attorney reached out and gave MS a long statement. The following is in response to questions directed to Kathy Allen. My name is Dave Cloutier. I've been a licensed attorney in Indiana for over 28 years, practicing in South Bend and handling personal injury and wrongful death cases, primarily in North Central Indiana. I can confirm that I'm privileged to represent Kathy on a pro bono basis with respect to advising her about protecting her interests related to the publicity surrounding the State versus Allen case. Make this a little bigger. In which Kathy's husband Rick is accused of the tragic murders of Liberty and Abigail. Kathy and I were brought together by a mutual acquaintance who, as a professional, felt strongly that Kathy needed advice and representation for herself. Good for that person. Over several months, I have gotten to know Kathy very well. She's under incredible stress and has handled it with grace, dignity, and goodwill. It's been a privilege to get to know someone with Kathy's strength. Kathy and I both have complete sympathy for the family of Libby and Abby and for all the people of the Delphi area. It's difficult to imagine how hard it must be for the families who deal with this loss and the unspeakable nature of what happened to Libby and Abby. For various reasons, Kathy has scrupulously avoided public comment of any kind, even in the face of repeated false claims and misinformation, both generally and specifically related to her. That sucks. Kathy has no desire to do or say anything to prejudice any parties' rights related to the upcoming trial. She also has been very careful to avoid doing or saying anything to add any pain or anxiety to the families of Abby and Libby. That is true. I wish I felt that it applied both ways, reciprocally. Reciprocably? Anyway. Kathy has been very careful to avoid doing or saying anything to add any pain or anxiety to the families of Abby and Libby. However, recently, Kathy was contacted by the murder sheet from whom she learned of a claim by an unknown person or unknown persons about Kathy's marriage. We appreciate the professionalism and journalistic integrity of the murder sheet in seeking comment before reporting. I am responding on Kathy's behalf. We do so in part because the allegation brought to Kathy's attention does not relate to the facts of the case or the upcoming trial, but is specifically about her. In addition, Kathy's response is necessary because the truth matters, and misinformation causes harm to her and her family.
That's fucking illegal.
As very wisely said by Kelsey German in July 2019, rumors suck and they hurt people. Therefore, I can confirm the following answer from Kathy to the questions you asked. Question murder sheet asked: did Kathy consider her marriage to Rick to be over and now believes his alleged confessions? Relatedly, it was asked of Kathy whether she had some kind of recent change of heart and is on that basis going around saying these things. Kathy's very gracious and she is very kind, I've heard. But what I've seen from her, which has been nothing, she has made herself invisible. I would have a really hard time making myself invisible in general, but certainly, please, I have the self-awareness, okay? But certainly would have a hard time making myself invisible if really harmful, untrue, malicious rumors and lies were being spread about me and my family all day, every day, to the gleeful encouragement, I would argue, of the state. And she has been silent. That takes incredible restraint, integrity, resolve, kindness. Anyway, I digress. We appreciate the professionalism, blah, blah, blah. I already read that. Kathy's answer to these questions is most definitely and emphatically no. Period. End of story. Kathy's marriage has certainly been profoundly affected by Rick's incarceration. Both of them are suffering immense stress. Kathy loves her husband. She believes in the sanctity of marriage vows, and she believes that the same presumption of innocence that our legal system gives to Rick should be given to in equal measure by her to the husband she loves. As to her husband's alleged confessions, it's not true that Kathy now believes them, but at this time, Kathy will limit her response to just that. Finally, Kathy has not been going around telling people these things. Kathy certainly has strong opinions and much to say about these matters more broadly. Perhaps in the very near future or further down the road, she may be willing and able to say more. For the time being, she's only responding to the direct questions that are asked that do not relate to the facts of the case, but do relate to Kathy herself and her reputation. With malice toward no one, Kathy prays for justice and for healing for all innocent people affected by the murders of Libby and Abby. She's also extremely grateful to Rick's defense team of lawyers, their staff and investigators. They've been courteous and kind to her and very conscientious about representing her husband. That's a really good statement. So I am glad that she was finally able to do that. And I hope that she feels supported. I'm really glad that she has, oops, I'm sorry. Oh, wait, no. I'm talking to myself. Chelsea says, I feel horrible that Kathy got put in this position by a liar. Multiple liars, yeah. True Gritty says, slander. Slander. DB's doing a slander. Gritty says, I'm so glad an attorney came forward and issued a statement clearing the air about these alleged false statements made by Kathy Allen. I want to give Kathy a big hug too. That is a really good statement. I want to read the end again. I wish that I could put in the chat, but it's going to limit my characters. It's going to do a censor. With malice toward no one, Kathy prays for justice and for healing for all innocent people affected by the murders of Limine Abbey. Why is that making me very emotional? Is anyone else getting that? That, like, kick in the head? She's also extremely grateful to Rick's defense team of lawyers, their staff, and investigators. They've been courteous and kind to her and very conscientious about representing her husband. Mumble like a silent hello from behind my gig. Hi, Christine. Thank you for your silent hello. We love you. Yeah, we are sending Kathy love and strength. Oh. Oh my God, y'all. I need to end the stream and, like, eat something. My lord. Pop Tarty, I'll link it. 1 second. Make it public. Okay. I think now if you click this, it should be public. If it's not, let me know. Hey, Rose. Lawyer Lee just posted a video 9 minutes ago, so make sure y'all go over there and watch it. I don't know what that means, Dick Redshirt. Prayers for Rick, Kathy, and the jurors. I'm not sure, Kay. It was sent to me in a message from someone. I imagine that the Murder Sheet podcast, since it was directed like to them in the statement, I imagine that they were the first to publish it. But then Barbara McDonald also said that Court TV received a statement as well. So what is this? Is this all eyes? Okay, I'm going to conclude, and thank y'all for being here and for your patience, and I'll see y'all. Oh, that's Lawyer Lee. Lawyer Lee's live. But I am gonna conclude. I'm not gonna Irish goodbye because I just announced it, so it kind of ruins it. You're welcome, Kay. Did I forget to do? I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. I have more to say about the media, but I'm gonna stop because I need to eat something before I die. I'll see y'all in a little bit.